You had the option of, all right, do I go back and try to renegotiate with the seller? It gets a longer time. This is the property. Tired landlord. I think there's only one picture online. So that's the property we're talking about here. So how long did these people rent previous to you guys buying it?
For a number of years. They'd both gone through career changes. So she was in Wisconsin, he was in Vermont, and they were both looking to move out to Vermont. And subsequently, during the term of our relationship, they ended up moving out to Wyoming as part of his new job, where he became the Uber wine steward for a billionaire resort in Wyoming. So like, oh, all right.
That's cool.
Yeah, interesting, interesting and nice people.
Love it. Very good. Okay, awesome. So this is the property we're talking about here. All right, so you got an expired listing or tired landlord. Walk us through, because this deal ended up closing. So walk us through, first and foremost, what was the deal type?
Sandwich lease. Basically, they were looking for what was marketplace at $335,000.
Okay, so $335,000, which was how much equity and how much debt?
Debt $263,500, equity $71,500.
Okay, and that was from the very beginning. Did any of these numbers change?
No. Well, at the onset, their numbers changed based on principal reduction. Nothing out of the normal because it was a sandwich lease. So over the span of the relationship, once the equity position changed because of two factors. One, increase of the mortgage pay down, and two, because of language in the contract. Since we were paying the mortgage, the sandwich lease language included something where there was a price change in the mortgage more than $50 a month. That would be the seller's problem and not ours. That came into play because they were on an adjustable, and that was a medium four-figure play.
Oh wow. Okay, so because you utilize those agreements that we had, because ask us how we know, right? Why we put these things in our agreements. Anything addition to what you agreed to make as their monthly payment, which is their PITI at the time you took over, plus $50. Anything above and beyond that is the seller's responsibility. And you're telling me that this happened, that became the seller's responsibility. How much?
Big time. It totaled $4,800
in total. Okay, nice $4,800 savings there for you guys.
Indeed,
awesome.
And it was something where, again, it's not boilerplate. It's there for a reason, and I was very grateful to see it because, take it seriously when it works to your advantage.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. The term on this deal is how long?
The original term was 3 years.
Okay, 36. Did that change?
It did, but that was due to circumstances with the buyer. So we acquired the property in August. We had a buyer in place for a move-in on December 1st.
Okay. So how did you guys get an extension? Is that what you're telling me?
We had the buyer committed, and so it was a minor extension. So it's technically 90, but we already had the buyer in hand, so they were happy to extend it to the actual move-in date.
Got it. I'm asking because like these deals, like you set terms and then sometimes they evolve. So I just want people to hear that as this deal actually closed out. So to hear all these little nuances that came throughout the deal are super important. Okay.
Well, I would also add that as people who had gone through the realtor syndrome, they were just glad to hear any positive news because we had traffic. We had people coming in and they had heard everything from their realtors that they could. Which as absentee owners, they didn't want to hear anymore. They just, we had people who are interested. And that was, so here, take all the time you need so only you get it sold.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, you went ahead and sold it for how much?
The sale amount was $359,000.
Okay. All right, so walk us through the actual deposits from the buyer.
Okay, the deposit, well, the deal included a rent and a payment for the taxes. So their total monthly was 222.6. Excuse me, $2,226.
From buyer?
Right. And so their initial deposit was basically they came in at 5%. So it was 12 and change. See if I have the right notes.
It's all right. If you said 5%, let's say roughly
Yeah.
12,000 plus first month's rent
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
plus 2,226. Okay. And then what is your payment?
Our payment initially was at monthly payday 2 was $543, because this was the buyer had come in presupposing an 18-month relationship.
Yeah.
We'd gone through the initial credit check. Credit check came up clean, which will be a topic later on. But credit check came in that they would be ready in 9 to 12 months. So we felt fine with an 18-month.
Yeah.
So there, there was a significant amount of short-term benefit, but again, it was going to be an 18-month deal in and out.
Got it. Okay. Was there any additional monthly payments plus the 12,000? I'm sorry, any additional down payments?
Initial down payments are supposed to be, the deal was that they were going to be paying like $1,296 a month as part of the deposit. Excuse me. Yeah, $1,296 towards the down payment deposit, so they would come up to 10% in 18 months.
Okay. Did that actually? So you guys had on your LOI like 12 grand now plus an extra $1,200 every single month towards the
eventual down payment.
Okay, 1,200 times 18. Okay.
So that kind of took down the, because the principal pay down over that 18 months was not as dramatic as it would be with the number of sandwich relationships or in the other sandwiches we had. But, that deposit money up front, very nice, so that was something where from a cash flow standpoint is very attractive.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. Every deal is different. Okay. So you got the 12,000 up front, $1,200 over time, plus the first month's rent. Your monthly cash flow on this is $543. So you bought it for what? And so what was the price premium?
24, $335 to $359.
24,000. Principal pay down on this is how much?
$12,006.
12,006. Okay, so we do the math because this is over 39 months.
18 months.
Didn't you say that that you had to go 36 months plus 90 days?
36. Oh, with the seller, yes. But with the buyer is coming in 18 months.
Yep. Got it. But this buyer ended up lasting, if I'm correct, unless you had two buyers in this house.
Well, no, there are a number of little side trips that this one took.
Okay, so walk us through it.
Okay, basically, the moral of the story is don't fall in love with a seller. The good news is this guy, a very solid guy, he was an exterminator. So he came in, got an established business. He walked in, he wanted to place. He was also in transition, just having gone through a marital status change. So great, it was a win-win. He's in, we're doing fine until ... because then the deposit money started to get soft in the spring because of work commitments. Sure. So again, he was stand up, he was very communicative, but the seasonality of his business started to kick in. So again, there were some months where, the rent was it, and the deposit started getting soft. So at X point, we decided to move it to 24 months as compared to 18, because yes, that would work, quote unquote. Well, by the time we move forward to month 21, he's not going to make it in 24 months. He's not going to make it because he had failed to disclose a financial issue that pre-existed, where he had a medium 5-figure tax lien from the IRS. So despite all the forms and such, okay, he didn't disclose. So technically he's in violation, but in reality, he had real problems. In the real world, the IRS wanted 60 grand. Yeah. And so it's no way he could get traditional financing. So as much as we represent that, yeah, you're going to be able to get financing, the buyer has a commitment, in as much that we're acting in good faith, they have to as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, he acknowledged at month 21 he was in breach and he wasn't going to make it up.
Okay.
So okay, the thought process is he's got a lease. I want to keep it going because at this point we're about 28 grand total in deposit in pocket. So I felt a certain responsibility to extend him to the end of the lease, which was through November 30.
Okay.
So again, at that point, his cash flow is a mess because he's going into a slow season. His level of motivation to be in the house is now dropped off the edge of the table, but he's still communicating like mad. And frankly, I've got, a reserve in pocket because now I can move forward with strategy B, C, and D.
Yeah. So did this seller, this buyer, did he then actually qualify for this loan, or did he vacate and then he went and sold it?
Well, basically the buyer was out of the picture.
Yeah.
He recognized that his deposit was forfeit because there was just no way he was going to be able to finance getting the house. Okay. He also had enough seasonal gyrations that he was non-compliant with either rent or deposits. So it's kind of a gentleman's agreement that against this is running out of time.
Yeah.
And sincere as all get out, but sincerity doesn't pay the bills.
Sure. No, it makes sense. Okay. So then this guy leaves at month what?
24. So again, we extended a 24-month lease. That was based on the fact when we bumped it from 18.
Okay. So this guy leaves at month 24. And then what do you do?
Get it ready to put it on the market, traditional realtor, because I don't have enough time to install a new rent to buy, which I would love because I've got 12 months remaining on my relationship with the seller.
Got it. Okay, so then you go put it on the traditional market for what price?
$400 initially.
Okay, then what did it end up selling for?
$373.
Okay, I'm making a bunch of side notes because this is exactly. These are some things that you consistently make pivot. So this is great. Okay.
Let me add a wrinkle or two in this because there were also expenses that were associated with bringing the property up.
Sure.
Guess what? You need a new hot water heater.
Okay.
You need to do work on the ground since he hadn't touched a rake or done anything in well over a year. So there's a significant amount of out of pocket just to spiff it up a bit to show it on the market. Try and maximize.
Roughly, what were the expenses?
Well, the expenses were cleaning, switching out the locks.
Just a rough dollar amount.
Gotcha. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It can just be rough.
I got a peanut gallery.
Yeah.
So it came to it was like $3,900.
Okay. Expenses $3,900. Okay, so far you've collected $28,000 in deposits. You've collected $543 times 24 months. Right?
So the net
24. I'm just walking through because I want to make sure these numbers are, as close to accurate as we could. So you got 543 times 24, 13,000. Okay, and then I'm sure you guys had to make a couple monthly payments, right?
Yeah.
Is the 3,900 included in that?
No, the mortgage payments were incremental to that.
Okay, so how many payments were the property vacant?
I don't have
rough numbers. 3 months?
4 months.
4 months. 1,683 times 4, 67. Okay, so you're gonna come out of pocket roughly 10 grand. A little bit more, 11,000.
Right.
Okay, so you've made 28,000 plus 13,000, so you're at like 40-some thousand. Then you had to come out of pocket 11,000, right? You get 12,000 in principal pay down. Now you go ahead and you list it with an agent at 373. You sell it, right?
Check.
What was the back end profit as far as what was your notice of option or your option release fee at the end?
Okay, in the grand total scheme of things, net the deposits because there's some ins and outs. Okay,
Okay.
My seller commitment was for 70.9. Okay.
Yeah.
But I had that offset because of the language. So again, it's 4805 based on what the language was. So in the final analysis, because of having a proactive deposit in hand, my initial profit model was 45,780 on the initial proposal. Okay. Net, the total came in at 63,933. So there was a net gain coming in 8 months early of 18,153.
All right, well, let's slow down for a second, just because you're throwing a lot of numbers at everybody. So your original anticipation of the 3 paydays of this deal was 45,000. I'm just
45.8.
45.8, and I'm actually, being a Massachusetts person, slowing down a Connecticut person right now to ensure that everybody knows what's happening. So your original projections were 45,000. What was, just so I know, when the HUD came in, what was the amount of money that was on for the notice of option for your particular deal, for this deal?
39,018.
So 39,018. Okay. I want to put some of this in perspective, because when there's a lot of moving parts for you, right? And then you had to have some expenses. You took on the property. You had to do a little bit of work, right? You had a heater. But in the grand scheme of things, you actually ended up making more money in a shorter period of time than what you actually projected.
You betcha.
Okay, so the total on this, you said, was how much?
63,933.
63,933. So although you had a little bit more work than you anticipated, you made an extra like $20,000, almost $20,000 by doing that little bit extra work, because you were pivoting the whole time, right?
Yeah, and again, there's a minimum of sweat equity involved with it as well.
Sure.
But by the same token, that's also, how do you feel your pulse accelerate? Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Let's open up for questions. And I'll ask you just because I feel like I have to ask this question, because like, how important was it to be able to I guess, talk about how the team supported you throughout this process. Like, I'm just curious, like, did you have to go back and forth with Nick all the time? Like, I'm sure you did, but did you go back and forth with a lot of teammates and coaches in order to work through this deal, or did you feel as though you had it?
Again, let me suggest that I feel like I had it, and then I became reliant on the coaches, because again, it's something where that's one of the advantages of having, shall we call it, a robust coaching scenario, because now you have someone to talk you off the ledge. No, because basically the idea being that how much time is enough time to be able to get another rent-to-own buyer, should you go to market, etc. So, I was bending people's ears when, okay, what's the next steps? Because again, as much as we like to think of this as being yes, no Crayola stuff, it's human beings in the real marketplace. What works to our maximum advantage? And when you have people discussing options as compared to telling you what to do, it helps a lot.
Sure. Yeah, because you had how much time left?
I had a year from the tenant move out.
Got it. So you were, yeah, I could see that then. So you had the option of, all right, do I go back and try to renegotiate with the seller? I get some longer time. Get a new tenant buyer in there. Do I sell it now? Yeah.
Well, I had frankly decided that, we're coming into, we were early for this year's retail market, if you will. The sellers had no interest in doing anything more than running for the hills. They wanted out. Yeah. Very nice, but they wanted out.
Yeah. Cool.